are ineluctably linked to the ethical choices Tus made in his political life. His subversive individualism led to the production of a significant body of writings that can be read as a sustained expression of mystical narcissism. Today, I will discuss some of the poems by Tus that belong to this venerable lyrical tradition, and to identify and will identify his relationship to other mystics, above all the 18th century poet and philosopher Grigoris Skovoroda. Before proceeding, let us first recall that the Narcissus story has been read and rewritten many times. Countless authors have used it to explore topics that range from the sin of self-indulgence to the experience of self-cultivation. Plato introduced narcissism into philosophy. His symposium defends self-love as a quest for virtue and beauty. Aristotle, in the Nicomachean Ethics, defines the boundary between selfishness and self-love, and he identifies the latter as the primary source of human action, emphasizing that instruction is necessary for its full development. In mystical theology, be it Eastern or Western, the central quest has traditionally involved the discovery of the true self, the good Narcissus, and here self I use with a capital S, and the rejection of the false self, the small s, the bad Narcissus. Both types of Narcissi are discussed in the oeuvre of Skovoroda. His first major prose work, The Narcissus, a deliberation on the topic Know Thyself, is an intricate allegory of reading and writing, as well as interpreting the self. Here, the good Narcissus successfully identifies, that he reads in the waters, his own divine and eternal essence. This set of 7 colloquies posits a program for the psychological reconstitution of the self that includes the discovery and practice of one's true calling, in the case of Skovoroda, writing. The discursive strategy of Skovoroda's program employs death and resurrection as tropes for anxiety and tranquility, insensibility and sensibility, blindness and apperception. Blessed self-love plays an important role in the process because it reveals, I quote, that single beauty and truth. There stands in your midst one whom you do not know, end of quote. In Skovoroda's theocentric system, the Son of God is an entity equivalent to the human mind, and thus he resides in every human being. Skovoroda's theology accepts what mystics frequently have referred to as, quote, the eternal birth or generation of the Son, or the divine Word. In a later work, titled Colloquy called Alphabet or Primer of Peace, Skovoroda presents a bad Narcissus so mesmerized by externalities that he is incapable of perceiving the sacred and eternal aspect hidden beneath the reflection of his perishable countenance. The thinker's ultimate proposition is that to become a perceptive reader, a successful interpreter of text, one must first read and intimately know the self. Psychoanalytic theory, on the other hand, treats narcissism as a neutral concept that refers to the human condition. Within such a framework, sickness or health merely reflects the manner in which individuals come to terms with their own narcissism. We're all narcissists. Thus, the noun serves as a tool for talking about fragmentation or integrity of the self, and is respectively modified by the adjectives pathological and normal. Heinz Kohut, a depth psychologist who has studied the restoration of the self, especially among Holocaust survivors, points out how in the attempt to become worthy of their ego ideal, some individuals engage in heroic acts and even risk losing their lives. I quote, "The capacity of the nuclear self to undergo changes, whether they take place slowly or occur abruptly, as in mystical experiences of illumination, visions, is fully compatible with the firmness of attitude so characteristic of courage." I hope to come back to this point during the discussion. Kohut also makes a clear distinction between subject-bound grandiosity, that is pathological narcissism, and the values of the nuclear self, arguing that it is the latter which supplies, quote, "the decisive motive power for heroism." In this context, it is important to note that Skovoroda's thought, when considering the basic matter out of which everything is generated, focuses strictly on the facts of the human psyche. Skovoroda's first major prose work initiated his own textual reformulation, or restoration of the self, after his dismissal from the Kharkiv Collegium. At the end of his peripatetic life, he appended a prologue to his firstborn son, that is the text of the Narcissus, in which he symbolically celebrated his achievements as an author and explicitly promoted self-love as the force that sustains man through suffering, stradania, and heroic feats. At this point, let us quickly review some dates in the biography of Stus. He was born in 1938 in Vinnytska Oblast, educated in Donbass. He completed the Donetsk Pedagogical Institute, served in the Urals between 59 and 61 in the military, and began writing poetry in 1959. In 1963, he entered the Shevchenko Institute of Literature, but in 1965, at a premiere of Serhiy Parajanov's film, Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors, participated in a public protest against repressions, and he was expelled from the institute. Consequently, he could not publish anymore, and he had to work as a manual laborer. In his free time, he translated many people, including Rainer Maria Rilke and various Polish, Russian, and Spanish authors. His first collection of poetry, The Vortex, is ready in 1964 but cannot be published. His second collection, Winter Trees, is ready by 1968 and gets published clandestinely in Brussels in 1970. Yet another collection prepared in the 1960s, The Joyful Cemetery, Veseli Plinta,